Hello, my gorgeous dancer. Today we're going to be talking about having what it takes. So I'm sure you're thinking, have it what it takes to do what? And I'm talking about having what it takes to get what you really want in life. I'm going to be using the comparison and the example of having what it takes to be an amazing dancer. So let's define first what that means, having what it takes. So I'm sure if you're in the commercial side of dance, you're thinking, okay, well, having what it takes to get booked. Potentially. If you're on the beginning side of dancing, it might be having what it takes to keep up in a dance class, having what it takes to learn a routine. So as you're thinking, just like make the example fit you, but let's really define having what it takes. So there's something in that sentence that says, I hear having consistency. I hear having discipline. I hear having an ability to continue when things are difficult. And I'm sure that's what you're thinking too. So let's think about first our subject matter of consistency versus perfection. Have you ever seen those diagrams? They're like, this is what it looks like, and then this is what it actually looks like. And you kind of like see this scale. I've seen it in memes of flowers where it's like, you just see like all these potted plants. And then I've also seen it like in, staircases, but you don't see like the downstairs and the upstairs. And I've seen it like, in mountains too. Like they show this concept a lot, especially on Instagram, right? Because that's kind of where our shift goes to comparison when we're thinking about like our life in terms of the life that we want or the life that we are striving for. Because as we know on Instagram, we're experiencing everyone's highlight reels. That's not news to you. It's not news to me. So what we think about that is, okay, wow, this is a really cool thing. This is how I want to live my life. And we don't get to see the consistency. We don't get to see the nuances, the stuff that's just like boring, the stuff like, think about the person that you admire most. Are you seeing them suffer through writing an email? Are you seeing them like so confused by a client that you're like, no, they're not showing that part. Maybe if it's real bad, they'll show it. But they're not showing that part, and they're not showing it because it's not that exciting. There's something about doing something that you're really striving for and you're really trying to get good at that's not fun and that's not exciting. And what actually is exciting about it, and this is like a really cool mindset shift, is if you can already know that. So sometimes like I talked to Josh about this, like when we set up our expectations, like I'll set my expectations up for something. I'll be like, okay, well, this could probably blah, blah. And sometimes he's like, oh my gosh, like be more optimistic. And I'm like, no, I'm just being realistic. Like I'm being realistic because I think actually this situation could be like this and I don't want to disappoint myself. So like when you're setting up your kind of like moment of looking on like the goals that you really want, like you're going to be thinking, okay, well, I just want it to feel and look like this. Well, you're setting your expectations up in that regard to be all exciting and none of it is boring. So if you set your expectations to be like, okay, well, this person got successful by doing X, Y, and Z, I'm going to get successful doing that too. So let's talk about it in terms of the dance studio. So there's so many things that come up for a dancer. Like, first of all, body. Like, let's talk about that. We have one body and we use it all the time. And a lot of us are grateful for it. And I think you can share the space with being grateful for it and also being like frustrated with it. And I think that's like totally okay. It's an actuality. It's an awareness. It's something that we just naturally do. We're humans, so we're innately trained to continue to improve. We have standards that we see and that we look at, things that we want, shapes that we see online in the media, things that look aesthetically pleasing. And then we have things that we're capable of and things that we're not capable of. And we realize those things as we go about our goals. So if something doesn't feel attainable, that's when we're going to say to ourselves, okay, well, that's not for me. And that's when we add in shame. So for example, if you're learning how to dance and you're not getting it right away, you're going to add your shame in now and you're going to say, oh, well, I'm not like so-and-so. My body is not like that. And that's why I can't. Ooh, that word, man, that word gets me. And that's why I'm quoting you. That's why I can't do X, Y, and Z. So as long as we have something to blame it on, we're fine. We can figure it out. And I'm telling you, I think if we reframe that and we are able to actually just say like, this is where I'm at and this is what I can do, you might be able to reframe it a little better. But let's go deeper. So we're at the studio. Our first obstacle, body. Got it. Our next obstacle, memory. Always. Our next obstacle, comparison. Big time, because you're looking around and you're seeing, oh, they're doing so good and they're and that person did this and her outfit's cuter than mine. Our next obstacle, staying present while doing all of this. So we're met with this like ability to, one, realize all those things in one time, and then also two, how to understand how to manage that while we're trying to learn something new, or maybe not something new, maybe something that you're just improving on. So one of the things I think is really important to remember is you're going to be able to do it if you have what it takes. If you have the ability to say to yourself in the moment, okay, I realize that and I'm going to move forward. Okay, I realize that my body is doing XYZ today and I'm going to move forward. Okay, I realize that so-and-so to my left, she's really kicking ass. I realize that she's been taking 3 more years of dance lessons than I have, or even this one. I mean, getting booked for certain jobs. I realize that this person gets booked a lot because they happen to know really well a lot of people. And so having what it takes in this instance can be actually understanding all those little tiny things. So it actually sometimes doesn't have to do exactly with you. It's just a realization of what's around you, a realization of the truth. Because we can make up funny games to ourselves. We can spread lies to ourselves like, okay, well, she just started and she's as good as, no, she didn't just start. She started 3 years ago. And she started coming and she felt just like you. And she started coming and she was going through the same thoughts that you were going. And she lost 50 pounds. And she did this. And all these things that you don't even know. You're just making this big, big assumption, right? Assumptions always get us into trouble. So when we have what it takes, we have the ability to gain perspective and we have the ability to just sit back and think, reality check. Reality, I am just a brand new dancer. Reality, I just started trying to book gigs. Reality, I am just learning after a serious injury. So we get to snap ourselves back into perspective and we get to figure out what we're going to do from there. So what are you going to do from there? Then we go into this idea. So we're talking about consistency versus perfection. So consistency, showing up when it's difficult, showing up on those days where it's like, ooh, man, I could stay in bed. Or, wow, I just started watching this show and I just want to keep watching it. Or, oh, my friends are going out. Well, then you look at yourself and you're like, okay, well, I just examined whatever part of the year it is for you, but every quarterly, I like to look at my year. I like to reflect on the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm working on, and I kind of like New Year's in a way, but with quarters. Like I like to look at each quarter and think, okay, what am I doing this quarter and what am I doing? I wish I had for you the quote, but it's from this book, Rocket Fuel. I forget the author, but you can look it up. And it's just kind of like a cool way of like setting up the things that you care about. They call them rocks. So going back to the idea of consistency. So like when you're consistent with something, it's not pretty. And this goes back to that little like image that I was trying to explain before of like the up and the down and the up and the down. It doesn't have to be pretty either. And that's where the misconception is like beauty is pretty. And no, it's not. Beauty's like, remember we talked about the ugly stage. It doesn't always have to be that way. And we don't have to think or have the expectation that it should be. And that's where it's on us to switch it around. So when we're showing up consistently, that means that we're showing up when we don't want to, when we're tired, when we're sick, because we realize that our goal in that moment, our goal in that quarter, our goal in that year, our goal in that 5-year span is that we want to do XYZ. So in this case, dance. You look at the videos, you're like, oh my gosh, if only I could. You could, actually. You really could. And you just have to trust that you can. And then you get to do the work to be able to do that. If you think about like, someone who's a professional at something, think and imagine all the hours, all the things that they gave up to do those things. And we call that discipline. So when you're able to have the discipline in your life, you're able to then be consistent. Those two are dependent on each other. You cannot have consistency without having the discipline to be consistent. I'll say it again. Without discipline, there is no consistency, because that would be like saying, I'm just going to do this. And then you're just a robot and you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it. But no, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have feedback, we have different times of the month, we have different seasons, we have things that are happening around us that we're constantly managing. So the discipline is choosing A, going to dance class, over B, hanging out with friends. I don't feel good, I'm going to stay in bed tonight. And to have the ability to pop out of your head and say, I think I should do this one tonight. That's a skill in itself. We talk about this a lot of the times, how dance is more than just the skill of dance. It's the skill of learning dance. It's the skill of learning and understanding how discipline is serving you. So when it comes down to having what it takes, that also means, do you have the discipline? Another thing about this is, it's kind of funny, is like timing. Like, I love talking about divine timing, and like, there's excuses. I mean, we're geniuses at making excuses. We can do that with ease. There's no other way to be a human, I think, without the ability, the heightened skill of making excuses. I mean, we can make excuses all day. We can rationalize those excuses. We can get our friends in on it too, and we can get them to really love our excuses and our rationalizations, and then we believe it. Discipline, consistency, is snapping you out of that and making sure that you understand that that shit's not going to fly. Like, you're not going to be able to do that and this. They don't go hand in hand together. Anything that's worth living for, anything that is part of your goal, is going to involve some type of discipline. I mean, even think about like people having children. Like, how much discipline do you have to stay and maintain healthy while you're pregnant, or to be able to know exactly what to do about staying with your kid, having a sitter, like all those things? Or you think about like some of the best athletes in the world, like, where were they on a Friday night? They were probably resting. They were probably taking care of their body, maybe doing an ice bath or two to get ready for the weekend's game. Maybe they were still at practice. So there's choices that we get to make, and there's choices that serve our goals and give us what it takes. And there's choices that actually allow us to have balance. And I say that in the nicest way, because the balance is doing the other thing that's not going towards your goal. And your job is to know, when can I have this balance of this rest and appreciating rest and knowing when it's serving you, and when is that rest trying to fool you? When is it a night to rest versus, and this is why I say it's funny, because it's like, you have to be so in tune with yourself to be able to say, okay, well, tonight's a rest night. Well, really, why? Like, you're having a conversation with yourself. Well, why though? And then it's knowing, okay, I don't need a rest. That was me just being lazy, or that was me just giving in to my, what do they call it? The devil's angels on the shoulders. Like, oh, that's the other side of me trying to get out of doing the work, doing the grit. Okay, so now let's talk about that word, grit. Ooh, it's gritty. It is so gritty. And what's so funny about that word to me is, like, it sounds gritty. Like, even when you just say it, you're like, oh yeah, that word, that has work all written behind it. Have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten like so gritty with something where you were just like, messy action all the way, and you were just doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it well, and you were just like, yes, I just have to be gritty on this. It's not going to be pretty. Like, I love to like think about homes being built like that. That can get real gritty. Or, if you're like in the middle of a construction project in your kitchen, but you're still living in the house, like, that gets gritty. But it's this endless amount of work until it's done. And for some of us, I mean, like, we're on a like myself, like, I'm a forever student. Like, I love learning. I love everything that has to do with improving. So like, the done is actually just a micro goal within itself. It's not like the end all be all. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I got that. Now let me expand that and let me get, more in depth in that, as opposed to let's move and change gears. So when I think about grit, I think about, I think about grit in houses also, because isn't that, I'm pretty sure like that thing is called grit, like in between tiles. I don't know. But anyway, but that's literally what I think of. And that's what I want you to think of is like, if you're having what it takes, are you being gritty? Are you getting in there? Are you doing the work? If you're not sure if you have what it takes, then you got to say to yourself, well, do I even want that thing that I wanted? Maybe you don't. Maybe you might realize how much it takes, and then you're like, I don't want it that bad. But that's okay. You can realize that. That's totally fine. But if it's something that is constantly bugging you, and it's like think about if you've ever tried to like lose weight before or gain weight, our bodies are always trying to stay at an equilibrium. So it's like your body is like fighting with you on whatever you're trying to do. So the grit that you need to have to continue your efforts is like real gritty. You kind of have to see and live in the moment of the future you versus we have a party this weekend. What am I going to do? It's pretty difficult to stay gritty when there's so many distractions. So now let's talk about distractions. So distractions are going to take you obviously out of the way of your desired place. So when you have what it takes, do you have the ability to limit distractions? Do you have the ability to say, oh, that's a distraction? For example, when your body and your mind is telling you, okay, you need to rest. This is really cozy right now. It's raining outside and you have a nice warm blanket. Is that a distraction? Is that your body saying rest? What is that? My guess is it's probably going to be either one of those two. It's either going to be your body saying, you got to rest, or a distraction coming through that you get to mitigate, and you get to have the ability to say, that's where I got to work a little bit harder on my discipline. Because having what it takes means being able to move through those and doing it anyway. So now let's talk about your emotional resilience towards all of this, because there's definitely something at play when you're working really hard on a goal. And there's endurance in that. I love that word, endurance. I just feel like it's like the word grit to me. Like it just says what it is, like endurance, like you're enduring all of it. Do you have the emotional endurance to handle the discipline, the consistency, the reminders, the self-awareness, all of the things that are going to help you to ultimately have what it takes? So there's tons of things that dancers go through. I mean, we're literally being critiqued, like alignment. Can you just imagine? Can you imagine standing there and your whole body is like, okay, make this longer, make this tighter, snap this harder, do this better, like show more face. Like there's just like a laundry list of all these things that it's funny, like it gets better aesthetically. And because it's all about aesthetics in dance, meaning it's all about what it looks like dance is an art form, it's visual. So what you're seeing is what the effort is behind it. So if the effort is there, in other words, then technically the visual representation should be there as well. False. The effort can still be there and the visual representation might still be off in dance. And it's the sad truth for an artist like a dancer, because we're constantly trying. I mean, I sometimes feel like banning the word trying, just because it's like, well, what are you doing? Are you trying or are you doing? So for us, we are constantly doing it to our best, which might end up looking like a little off, right? Until we get the correction. And most of us, we talk about this a lot of times, dancers as people, we're just really good at taking corrections. We're really good at like formulating ourselves into the position that we need to, or taking a note, and like whether we understand it or not, we're going to do it. There might be reasoning behind it because of the director, their choreography. Maybe it's explained to us, maybe it's not. Maybe we don't get it. Maybe we don't know enough to ask a better question. And that's one of my favorite skills to teach my beginner dancers, is how to ask better questions as a dancer. And it really comes from knowing what it is, knowing the craft. So is your emotional resilience so good that you can take a correction. Let's say you're on a company and you're watching the favorite get casted in the role that you wanted, the role that you worked hard for. Are you able to say, okay, that's not my timing? Are you able to say, okay, I'm going to fix that correction? Or does it wear on you? Because if you do believe in divine timing like I do, and you do believe in like this path and the universe and all of that, then you would also agree with me in this statement that the divine timing for you to get casted in X, Y, and Z is at another time or never. And that sounds harsh, but the reasoning is because there's so many different paths than the ones that are obvious. So when we're thinking that we have what it takes to do something, we're also thinking that that's the only thing that is slightly related to that thing that we want to do anyway. So what I mean by this, for an example, like I'm a wedding DJ. When I first started though, I thought like maybe I'd want to be a club DJ. So I also was like booking different clubs and different things, in nightlife. And I would notice that like there was definitely, there's politics everywhere. There's politics in DJing, obviously. Like, they're gonna have certain DJs certain nights. Like I remember there was this one place locally that like they just didn't have me ever. And I was like, I just wonder why. Like I was always there. I was always like, I'm not trying to make this like a or poor me thing. It's just to show you the perspective that I gained. And I do gain a lot of perspective in reflection and thinking. So like this isn't a poor me thing. This is just like, oh wow, how interesting to be suggesting the idea of you should have a DJ here during this day. It would go off. And then them saying, oh, maybe da da da. And then randomly, like 2 summers later, they do have a DJ and it's not you. And it's definitely, they don't want a woman DJ or they didn't want me. And I don't have a reason for it, nor do I need to because I'm busy. I'm booked that day. But the reality is like back then I might have been like, okay, that's weird to see, but to gain so much emotional resilience and to understand divine timing in the way that I do, I don't care. And I hope that you don't care about these things either, because I truly see it as the push to just work my wedding DJ business, which is actually what I love way more. I love doing weddings even more than I would club DJ vibe at this scenario. So when we think about having what it takes, do you have the emotional resilience? Do you have the self-discipline? Do you have the ability to be consistent and understand consistency over perfection? And do you actually understand having what it takes and what it means in reference to you and that goal? From there, we then think about the long-term plan. So the long term, okay, so if you're a beginner dancer and you're starting out, let's say that your goal is, I just want to dance. I want to like be in a video. I want to look hot. I want to feel good. Like when I'm dancing, I want to feel like I'm in my body and connected. I want to be able to, this is a very popular one. I want to be able to like feel like I found love for my body when I'm with my partner. I want to feel comfortable, like with movement. I want to feel able to, take my shirt off, like take my shorts off, not be so shy. Like these are all goals that my students come in with all the time, more than once. And when we think about the long-term goal here, having what it takes, are you realizing that it's not an overnight thing? I mean, I know you know that logistically. What if I told you it's not like an over the course of a year thing? What if I told you it might take 3 years for you to feel like you've actually gained some progress? That's what we call the long game. The long game is showing up. Obviously, we talked about that, showing up consistently. But like the endurance on that is like you're really working hard to get that goal. And then when we think about the long term and we think about this endurance, then I have to, like there's no way I could do this without talking about this definition of what it means to be enough. So as you're going through these like huge goals, there's the question of, okay, I know I really want this. And there's a realization that, yeah, you deserve it too, potentially, deep down, even if it's subconscious. And then there's this idea of, well, I don't have it yet, so am I good enough? And when you have the ability to rewrite what enough is, that's when you're going to be able to have the ability to have what it takes. Because enough, it's a scale. It's enough in that time frame. Because if you think about, I mean, this is like going to get really philosophical in a second, and like maybe scientific. But if you have enough, okay, and you're like holding it in your hand, enough for a version of you that's younger is enough. Like that was enough. Like you here it was, you had it. That's enough. Okay, but your enough expands and it gets bigger, so there's more enough to hold. There's more enough because you've had the ability now to add more in. I think maybe the easier way to explain this is thinking about school. So for those of you who know, like I used to teach elementary special education, and there's something called a curriculum. We all know that. And there's these parameters that like we want to make sure that all the kids are meeting when they get ready to get to the next grade. Certain skills, certain things that they definitely should know how to do. And for some, like that's enough. Okay, good. That's enough. You got it. You can go to the next grade. That skill set is not enough though to get to the next grade after that. So as we age and as we improve and as we go through life, we're getting more enough. And the rate at which we get enough is directly associated with the way in which we look back at our goal. So if you're looking at your goal and you're saying, I didn't hit that yet, I'm not enough. That could be a direct sentence that you'd say to yourself. I didn't get my goal. I'm not enough. Actually, what you should be saying is, or what you can say is, I didn't hit my goal yet. And what I have right now is enough to help me propel myself forward. It's not that you're never going to get the goal because you're not enough. It's that you have enough right now. And it's about worthiness. So like in a way, getting to understand that you are worthy of this goal is part of it. So it's this self-belief factor where sometimes, and I know you've heard this before, imposter syndrome kicks in, and it doesn't just kick in, it just kicks your ass too. It's not like we ask for it to come. It's not like we open the door for it. We didn't give them the code to the gate. Like it just it finds us. It makes us question deep down, am I enough? Am I worthy of this? Should I continue this? Should, what? Guess what that is? That's fear. That's fear, and fear loves to be in the driver's seat. Fear loves to take over. So anytime you get the ability to think those things come through and you have the ability to question, oh my gosh, is this fear? That's having what it takes. What it takes is being able to decipher when that fear creeps in and when the imposter syndrome comes in, when the question of enough comes in, when it questions your self-belief and your confidence. That's fear. Fear knocks and you answer. And sometimes when we open fear's door, we believe it. I mean, we're literally like, oh, you're right. I mean, it's so sly. It'll get in there and it'll creep and it will actually prevent us from moving forward, even if that's all we want to do is move forward. It's kind of fucky, honestly. So when you think about your worthiness and your ability to see yourself as enough, remember that it's directly tied to how much you're giving in to fear. Because a great way to open fear's door is to be like, okay, yes, I considered that. Yep, I considered that. Thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging those things. And I'm just going to move on, because that's what having what it takes is. It's taking the ability to see that, oh, that's fear, and going forward. So today, I hope that this helps you just reassess exactly where you are. And just, if you ever just sit down and you question, like, why aren't I here? One, come to the realization that you're here right now and love that you're there right now and do whatever you can where you are right now. And then if it's somewhere that you really want to be, meaning you really want to be further along, or you really want to be, again, insert any goal that you have right now, dance goal or not, what are you doing? Like, are you doing what it takes? Are you showing up consistently with discipline? Are you believing that this is for you? Because that's a whole other one. We'll have to talk about that. But understanding your worth so much that you believe that it's going to happen before it even happens is actually a skill in itself. So today, I hope that you're able to continue doing what it takes and assess when you can do a little bit more. Stretch that muscle that helps you understand, ooh, do I rest today or do I keep going today? Because we also want to prevent burnout. That'll get you too, just like fear does. And having what it takes knows how to decipher fear. And it's deciphering, if I do this now, I'm going to get burned out. I also want to talk to you sometime about the seasons of working really hard. You're going to learn exactly how to do this because there's a way in which we work. Just as like, if you've ever studied like the body, the human anatomy, there's certain bodies that just digest better carbohydrates than the bodies that digest fats. And like when you know which one you are, you can kind of like eat to that way. So it's the same as understanding your seasons. So if you're the type of person that enjoys like a really hard working season, like 3 months of working really hard, and then 3 months or maybe 1 month of like not working so hard, that's a season. If you know 5 days, I got to work so hard for 5 days, and then understand that those other 2 days need to be absolute rest and nothing else, then that's what you're learning about yourself. So that's what you can do. I'm sure there's tons of different combinations of those, but when you realize what works best for you, that's when you have what it takes to avoid burnout so that you can get closer to your goals and feeling like your authentic self. Because when you're your authentic self, you are your happiest, most confident self. And that's what I'm here to help you with. So I'll see you next time.